All right, good morning, guys. Welcome back. So today, guys, we're going to talk about pH and pOH calculations, right? So let's review first. What the heck is pH? Okay, if you were here last time, guys, pH, we said, is the measure, okay, of how acidic something is, okay? How acidic, okay, or basic something is. Okay, and we know that pH is a number between 0, okay, this is a number between 0 to 14. Okay, last time we learned that if the pH, guys, was less than 7, this was an acid. If the pH was bigger than 7, this was a base. And if the pH, guys, was equals to 7, this would have been a neutral solution. Okay? All right. So, if you look closely here, guys, it says there pH and pOH. So, what's the difference between pH and pOH? All right. They're actually both a measure of how acidic or basic a substance is. They're both a measure of how acidic or basic a substance is. The only difference is the pH, guys, measures the potential hydrogen. Okay? Okay, this measures the pH. P means potential. Okay, hydrogen. Okay, and pOH, guys, measures the OH. This is potential OH. Okay, so in pH, guys, what is actually being measured is the amount of hydrogen ions, the H plus ions in the solution. While in the pOH scale, guys, it measures the potential hydroxide or OH ions in the solution. All right. So how different is the pH and the pOH scale from each other? Actually, they're exactly the same, except they're actually reverse of one another. They're actually the reverse of one another. All right. So if you look closely at this chart right here, let's look at this chart. pH, you see this? The chart goes from 0 to 14. Okay. While on the other hand, the pH pOH scale, guys, is actually 0 to 14 still, but in reverse. You see it? Okay. So if you have a pH, let's take an example. If you have a pH of, let's say, 1, if you look at that table, the pOH value is actually equals to 13. Okay. And let's say if you have a pH of, let's say, 2.5. Okay. If you have a pH of 2.5, the answer, the pOH would be 11.5. So how do you get the pH from the pOH and how do you get the pOH from the pH? Well, if you look closely, guys, at the values, you can actually see that there is a formula that you can actually come up with. So what is that formula? That if you add the pH value plus the pOH value for any substance, they should always equal to 14. So again, if you get the pH and the pOH value for any substance, the total should be 14. So from there, you should be able to get the pH. So pH, guys, is nothing more than 14 minus pOH. Or if you wanted the pOH, guys, that is nothing more than 14 minus the pH. You see it? That's the formula that you're going to be working on today. All right. So let's take an example. So again, uh, let's write that down. So again, these are the formulas that you're going to work on. Okay, right there. Okay. All right. So again, you don't even need the second one. As long as you remember the first one, you should always be good. Okay. So for example, guys, if the substance has a pH of, let's say, 3, what is the pOH? Okay. What will be the pOH here? So this, how do you get the pOH, would be simply 14 minus the pH. So this would be 14 minus 3. And the pOH here is simply 11. You see it? Okay. Or what if now, let's say I have an example and our pOH is equals to 7. How do you get the pH? Okay. And again, this is going to be 14 minus the pOH, which is 7. And this is now 14 minus 7 gives me 7. Do you see it? And that's how you do this. All right. Okay. We also need one more formula, guys. All right. How do you get the actual concentration of the acid? So this one right here, okay, this one right here, this one right here is your acid concentration. Okay. All right. And this one right here, if you look closely, guys, is your base concentration. Okay. So how do you get the base concentration and the acid concentration uh, for a solution? All right. It's actually very simple. Okay. It's right here. Okay. The formula, guys, is 10 to the negative pH. So given the pH, guys, you simply use that number as an exponent, as a negative exponent to 10, and that's the concentration. Okay. How about the concentration of the base? It's simply, guys, 10 to the negative pOH. All right. Okay. So we already discussed the first formula right here, the second formula right here, this main formula right here, we already did. Now let's look at how do you get the pH if you're given now the concentration. Okay, if you're given the concentration, guys, you just use the negative log of the acid concentration to get that, or to get the pOH, you get the negative log of the OH concentration. All right, so let's take an example. All right, so look here. Okay, let's do this example right here. What if I have a pH of 3.78? What can I get from here? All right. First of all, guys, you should know that the pH here is less than 7. Okay. And what did we say about that? The pH of less than 7, therefore this has to be an acid. All right. Okay. So if we get the pH, we can now get the concentration of H plus B right here. And how do you solve this? Remember, guys, the concentration of the acid is simply 10 to the negative pH. And this becomes now 10 to the negative 3.78. If you want, you can put this in the calculator, but you can just leave it like that. So this is 10 to the negative 3.78. See it? All right. Now we should be able to get our pOH. So how do you get, guys, pOH? Okay, since we have, guys, our pH, pOH is very easy. Okay, and look at your formula. This is 14 minus pH. And this becomes now 14 minus 3.78. Okay, and you can get a calculator just to be sure. So get a calculator and you're going to say 14 minus 3.78. And I got 10.22. Okay, 10.22. All right. Okay, so don't forget that. So again, now let's do the next one. So how do you get now the concentration of OH? Okay, again, guys, since we have pOH, the concentration of OH, guys, is simply 10 to the negative of the pOH, right? This becomes now 10 to the negative 10.22. And that's it. This is now 10 to the negative 10.22. And there you go. That's how you fill this in. All right. So again, just take note of the formulas that we have. All right. So let's try it again. Let's try another example right here. Okay, let's try example B. All right. All right. All right. Oh, by the way, in this example, guys, 10 to the negative 3.78, they actually put it in the calculator, got the final answer, and right there. Okay. This is scientific notation, and you can do that, or you can just leave it as 10 to the negative 3.78. It should still be more or less the same answer. All right. All right. Cool. All right, let's try this out. All right, so look at this one right here. Okay, what I have here, guys, is the concentration of H plus. All right, so I have the concentration of H plus. How do we get anything out of here? All right, if you look at our formula, guys, the first thing that you can actually get would be pH. Okay, and this would be pH is equals to negative log of the concentration of H plus. And this is equals to negative log of 3.89 times 10 to the negative 4. And you can put this in a calculator. Don't forget the negative sign goes in first, right? Don't forget the negative sign goes in first. Okay, so let me grab a calculator. So, oops. Okay, so negative, and then let's look for that log. Log is right here, and then it's 3.89. Okay, second function comma, and that is negative 4, and the answer is 3.41. Okay, so this is 3.41. All right. So if you get a negative answer in your pH, that might be wrong. So just make sure that you put in that negative sign before the log, all right? And I just rounded it off. So this is 3.41. Okay, guys, as soon as you have your pH, you should be able to tell whether this one is an acid or a base. And again, this is less than 7, so this thing is an acid. All right. Okay. All right. What else can you get as soon as you have pH? As soon as you have pH, guys, you can get the pOH. You can get the pOH. Okay. And that will be pOH is equals to, don't forget, 14 minus the pH. Because again, if you add the pH and the pOH of the substance, it should equal to 14. This is 14 minus 3.41. And this is 14 minus 3.41. And I get the answer as 10.59. Okay. And this is 10.59. Okay. And finally, guys, as soon as you got the pOH, you can now calculate for the concentration of OH. Okay, and again, how do you do that? The concentration of OH is equals to 10 to the negative pOH, and this is 10 to the minus 10.59. All right, and then let's put that in the calculator. So that's 10 minus 10.59, and the answer is 2.57 times 10 to the minus 11. Okay, or again, you can just leave it as 10 to the negative 10.59. So this is 2.57 times 10 to the negative 11. All right. So don't forget, just take note of those formulas right there. Okay. Just make sure you take note of the formulas. Go practice on these next few problems. All right. So go practice on these next few problems right here. All right. So slide 7 right there. Okay. Go practice on those problems right here. Okay. I'll tell you a hint on example 3. So you got pOH. The first thing you should be able to get would be this. And how do you do that again? This would be pH equals to 14 minus the pOH. From there, you should be able to get this. Okay. And from this, you should be able to get this. And then, of course, from the pH, you should be able to answer whether it's an acid or a base. All right. Go practice some examples 3 and 4. If you need more help, just ask your teacher. Uh, and then we'll do some other practice problems in class. All right. So I'll see you all again in the next lesson.